The Strangers Chapter 1 is out this weekend and is supposed to be the start of a 3-part horror odyssey. I'm here to help you decide if you should go see it this weekend. So Chapter 1 is not meant to be a requel or a sequel of any kind. It's meant to just be an homage to the first Strangers film. And apparently we are meant to be seeing Chapter 2 sometime this fall, although the release date has not been announced yet, and Chapter 3 is supposed to be early next year in 2025. But if you've seen the original Strangers film, you'll probably be a little familiar with this one. The story follows a couple whose car breaks down in a small town, and they're forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by 3 masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. So this is directed by Renny Harlin, and all 3 films are directed by Harlin, and they're all shot, at least. I think I read somewhere that they shot it in like 2 months or something like that, like the entire trilogy. I was going in dubious anyway. As soon as we saw the trailers, like obviously, as people were pointing out all over the internet, the trailer looked very similar to the first one. Like they seemed like they were kind of pulling a lot of the same tricks. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I'm gonna try not to make this a rant video. I did not enjoy the experience at all of watching this. For a movie that's supposed to be the first in a trilogy that's at least already been filmed, not a strong start. It was too much of the same. Obviously where Chapter 1 ends, Chapter 2 and 3 are going to be new stories, but to have the first one be so much of the same thing, it was boring. It was so boring. It wasn't scary. And honestly, they kind of, just the small change of having this couple get stuck in the town and go to an Airbnb, it felt like a ploy. It felt like a trick by the town. It felt like at least a few people in the town were in on it, and this is what happened. That's the vibe I was getting, which felt less scary to me. They added layers of separation there where I'm only in trouble if I go stop in this small town in Oregon, and then if I end up staying in a cabin there, that's how they're gonna get me. It felt like I felt so separated from what was happening. So I didn't feel afraid at all. And a lot of the tricks they pulled, like the scares and things like that, were just taken from the first one. I will say right off the bat, not only did they take a lot of the same scares from the first one, they overdid them. I've talked many times about that iconic scene from the original where Liv Tyler's character is in the kitchen and the masked man comes out behind her and the film is completely silent. Yeah, they did that like at least 4 or 5 times in the movie. They did a version of that. Except there was no like tension to it. Like the music swelled really loud when it happened, and it was just like, obviously it's all subjective, but my feeling when I was watching it was like, wow, you managed to make one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie so completely unscary. I also venture to say that there were a few moments that I think were a little bit unbelievable, and I'll try to explain it the best I can without spoiling. But in a few of the instances where they did that whole, oh, one of the masked killers is standing behind them, but they don't notice, it would show them, and then, you know, the camera would move in a way where it's like the main character takes up most of the screen, and then they move back, and then you see that they're gone. Some stuff like that would happen so quickly that there is no way someone would be able to move that quickly to be completely gone from the room again without making a sound. There was some stuff that was just like unrealistic it's because they did that same trick too many times of the masked killer standing behind them without them noticing. They did it too many times. I also noticed what I think was a continuity error, and I personally don't feel like that it is spoilery, so I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about it really quick. One of the characters has asthma and has an inhaler, and at one point in the movie that character drops the inhaler. So you would think that that would come up later, like they start to, you know, maybe feel short of breath or maybe start to have an asthma attack, and they go for their inhaler and it's not there. There was no scene where this character realized their inhaler was missing. And then it gets to a scene later on in the movie where they make a makeshift inhaler out of like a water bottle that they find on the ground, but they immediately go for the water bottle to do this. So it's like in this scene, the character knows the inhaler is gone, but we didn't ever see a point where they found out the inhaler was gone. And I think there is something to be said for visual literacy and being able to connect those dots, but that's a little much. Being like, okay, we're gonna show you this thing and put some importance on it because, you know, like implying that it's gonna come up later and then it's never gonna come up later, and then you're just supposed to make that jump like, okay, well at some point while they were running around, I guess they realized their inhaler was gone. Really odd. And the characters were just making dumb decisions. It's almost like the only purpose was to eat up time in the movie. I won't talk specifics on that one, but there is one where you kind of see a little bit of that scene in a trailer. And it was an interesting viewing experience too, because my theater was pretty vocal. Like they laughed at the appropriate times and things like that. And they were kind of reacting to like, oh my God, don't do that, don't do that, which was fun. Like I didn't have any problem with that. But like during that scene too, the theater like very visibly got frustrated. After having watched the movie and kind of collected my thoughts on the way home, I do have to say, I don't see a way that we can continue with the same characters in chapter 2 and not have there be a motive. There's no way. The randomness of the act of violence is gone. The strangers are gonna be after specific characters, and that immediately makes it non-scary. With this movie, they took away the thing that makes the strangers so scary. I fully sound like a Halloween fan right now. You're giving them a motive. I'm not saying that there was a clear motive given in this movie, but there's about to be. Like in chapter 2, there will be one. There was a person there that was doing surveys after the movie. I gave the film a very generous C rating, only because the person who was handing out the things was so nice. When I settle on a number rating for my Letterboxd, it's not gonna be good. So if you go out and see The Strangers chapter 1 this weekend, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Let me know if based on this, are you now excited for chapter 2? I'm not. I guess there's a chance somewhere out there that 2 and 3 could be incredible films. Maybe they just needed this movie to break away from the original. Who knows? You can check out my revisit of the original Strangers and The Strangers Pray at Night, that video there on the screen. And I will see you next week with some new videos. Until then, stay strange. Bye.